Hey guys, tonight we're not shouldering a rifle. We're holding a camera. It's an Aeroflex 35 German-made, heavy as a brick and cold to the touch. Your job isn't to take lives, but to capture images. You're not a soldier in the way they are, the ones with mud on their faces and a 1,000-yard stare. You're an artist, a storyteller. At least that's what you tell yourself. So, before we load the first reel, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you feel a connection to the stories we tell here. Let me know where you're listening from and what time it is. I'm always fascinated by how far these quiet echoes of the past can travel. Now, lower the lights, maybe find a comfortable chair, and let's step behind the lens together. You're a Kriegsberichter, a war correspondent, part of a propaganda company. Your mission is to shape the war, to frame it, to give it a narrative that people back home can understand, can cheer for. You believe in the power of the image. The perfect shot, the heroic angle, the look of determination in a young soldier's eyes. You are here to document history. You just don't realize yet that you'll have to invent most of it. Welcome to the Eastern Front. Your lens will see everything, but your film can only show what you're told. The summer of 1941 is a symphony of steel and dust, and through your viewfinder, you are its conductor. The world unfolds in perfectly composed frames. Panzers, their lines clean and sharp as a draftsman's drawing, roll across golden fields of Ukrainian wheat. Above, Stukas dive with a terrifying, geometric grace, their sirens tearing the blue canvas of the sky. You run alongside the infantry, the Aeroflex heavy on your shoulder, its weight a constant, reassuring presence. You are not running from danger. You are running towards the perfect shot. You search for it constantly, an artist hunting for his muse in the chaos. There, the chiseled jaw of a young lieutenant, his eyes fixed on the horizon, a modern-day night, the sun glinting off a row of helmets as men march past, their faces still clean, their uniforms still crisp, the effortless, almost casual wave of a hand as a village is liberated. Everything is forward motion, a relentless, beautiful machine consuming the landscape. The footage is clean, powerful, undeniable. It is the visual evidence of destiny. Your commanding officer, Hauptmann Voss, reviews your daily footage in the back of a rumbling truck. He is a man who seems utterly immune to the dust and sweat of the campaign. His fingernails are always manicured, his uniform impossibly neat. He disdains dirt with the passion of a religious zealot. He squints at the flickering images you project onto a canvas sheet. Good, good, he murmurs, his voice a low purr that barely rises above the engine's drone. He taps a perfectly clean finger on the image of a soldier grimly cleaning his rifle. But we need more spirit, more smiles. The people at home, they need to see the joy of liberation, the confidence of our boys. He looks at you, his eyes not unkind, but firm, like a professor instructing a promising but naive student. They are not just fighting a war, you understand. They are building a new world. They should look happy about it. So you learn to ask the soldiers to smile. At first, it feels awkward, a violation of the quiet bond between observer and subject. You approach a group of infantrymen resting by the side of the road. They've just marched 20 miles, and you can see the exhaustion in the slump of their shoulders, the glaze in their eyes. Their feet, are likely bleeding inside their boots. Lächeln, you say, forcing a cheerful tone. Smile for the camera, for the folks back home. They look at you, then at each other. A few manage a weak, cracked lip grin. Another forces a laugh that sounds more like a cough. You direct them, moving them like pieces on a chessboard. You share a cigarette with him. Yes, like that. Clap him on the back. You stage shots of them laughing, waving at your lens as they roll past in a half-track. You are no longer just capturing the war. You are directing it. The line between documentarian and fiction writer, once a clear, sharp demarcation, is now blurring into a soft, hazy smudge. You tell yourself it is for the greater good. Morale is a weapon as vital as any machine gun. The inside of your truck becomes your entire world. It smells of three things, a holy trinity of the campaign: the sweet, acrid smell of gasoline, the salty, human smell of sweat that seems to have soaked into the very metal of the vehicle, and the sharp, chemical tang of celluloid film. At night, you create a makeshift darkroom, draping thick blankets over the truck's windows. Lit by the ghostly ruby-red glow of a single safety bulb, you perform the alchemical ritual of developing your reels. It's a delicate, intimate process. You submerge the film in the developer fluid, gently rocking the tray, your heart beating in time with the slow, rhythmic sloshing. You watch the images appear, materializing from the milky liquid like ghosts. A tank, its cannon pointed at the sky. A burning barn, the flames licking at the darkness. The face of a young soldier, the one you asked to smile, now frozen forever in a moment of manufactured joy. You feel a surge of pride, the fierce, protective pride of a creator. You are not merely recording history. You are creating the official memory of this war, the version that will be etched into the minds of millions. But sometimes, when you lower the camera, the world refuses to fit into the glorious narrative you are constructing. You pass through a village. The official report, which you will help illustrate, will call it a swift and bloodless capture. Your lens obediently films the German flag being hoisted over the small town hall, the soldiers standing at crisp attention. It's a perfect shot. But when you lower the Aeroflex, your naked eye sees something else. An old woman stands in the doorway of her small house, her face a roadmap of wrinkles, and she stares at you. Her eyes are not angry, not sad, just empty. Two dark holes in the blanket of her face. You see a child's doll lying face down in the dirt, one of its cloth arms bent at an impossible angle. You notice the silence. There are no dogs barking, no birds singing. It's a dead, heavy quiet that the roar of your truck's engine cannot fully erase. You raise the camera again, instinctively, to capture the woman's face. It is a powerful image. But then you lower it without filming. Voss would never approve. It's not part of the story. You've started naming your camera lenses to cope with the solitude. It's a small, private madness that keeps you sane. The 50mm, your workhorse, is Klaus. He's reliable, straightforward, honest. He sees the world much as you do. The 75mm telephoto is the Baron, because it sees things from a safe, aristocratic distance, compressing the chaos into a clean, manageable frame. You whisper to them while you clean them at night, polishing the glass with a chamois cloth until it gleams in the red light of your darkroom. "Did you see that, Klaus?" You'll murmur. "The way the sun caught the eagle on his helmet?" They are your only real companions out here, the only confidants who see exactly what you see, even if you are forbidden from showing it. They are silent witnesses to your compromises. You are becoming fluent in a new language, the grammar of deception. It's a language spoken not with words, but with angles and light. You learn that a low angle can turn a tired, 5'9" soldier into a towering giant, a hero from a Wagnerian opera. A tight close-up on a determined face can completely hide the trembling hands just out of frame. Tilting the camera on its axis just a few degrees can make a flat, boring landscape look like a dramatic hill being conquered with immense effort. You learn to film from behind the soldiers, showing their broad, strong backs as they advance, but never the fear that might be on their faces. You can make a squad of 10 men look like a company of 100 by panning across them quickly. Hauptmann Voss praises your ingenuity. "You have a good eye, my boy," he says. "You see not what is there, but what should be there." It is meant as a compliment, but it chills you to the bone. Historians will later debate the reasons for the initial, staggering successes of Operation Barbarossa. They will write scholarly articles about Soviet unpreparedness, about the superiority of blitzkrieg tactics, about Stalin's purges decapitating the Red Army's command structure. They will draw maps with bold arrows and cite production statistics for tanks and aircraft. But you were there. You know the truth is simpler and more profound. The initial success was a product of absolute, unshakable belief. Everyone, from the generals planning the campaign to the young infantrymen you filmed smiling for your camera, believed in the myth of their own invincibility. They believed they were the rightful masters of history, and the world was simply arranging itself to accommodate their destiny. And your job was to feed that myth, to water it, to make it grow so large it blotted out the sun. Your footage was the proof. You were the high priest of the cult, and your camera was the sacred text. One evening, as the dust of a long day's advance settles, Voss hands you a piece of paper. It's a telegram, a new directive from the Ministry of Propaganda in Berlin. He gives it to you without a word, his face unreadable in the fading light. You read it by the glow of a headlamp. It's a list divided into 2 columns. On the left, approved subjects for newsreels. Heroic advances, smiling soldiers, grateful civilians, captured Soviet equipment in large quantities, German efficiency. On the right, a much longer list, titled Unsuitable Imagery. Dead German soldiers, damaged or destroyed German equipment, soldiers displaying signs of fatigue or doubt, wounded men, unless their wounds are minor and they are expressing a desire to return to the front, civilians showing hostility, mud. The last word seems almost comical in its bluntness. You look at the reels you just shot that afternoon. They contain a sequence of a Panzer that had broken down, its crew working frantically to fix a thrown track. Another shot shows a group of exhausted men sleeping in a ditch, their mouths open, looking vulnerable and utterly human. You feel a cold knot tighten in your stomach. You realize your job isn't to show the war. It's to hide it. Autumn comes, and with it the Rasputitsa. The word itself is heavy, thick, guttural on the tongue. It means the time of no roads. The beautiful, rolling fields of summer, the ones your camera loved, turn into a vast, featureless sea of thick, black porridge. This isn't just mud. It is a malevolent entity, a living thing with a hungry mouth. It swallows everything. The symphony of steel grinds to a discordant, screeching halt. Your camera, which once captured the lightning speed of the blitzkrieg, now only documents a profound and terrible stagnation. You see panzers sunk to their turrets, their powerful engines whining uselessly, their crews standing on the hulls with looks of bewildered frustration. You see prime mover horses, their muscles straining until their hearts literally give out, collapsing into the mire. You see men, their uniforms caked in a solid shell of drying mud, digging with shovels, with their helmets, with their bare hands, trying to free a truck that seems determined to be buried alive. The mud pulls and sucks at your own boots with every step. It is the true enemy. You try to film it. You see a story here, a different kind of heroism. An epic struggle not against another army, but against the earth itself. You frame a beautiful shot of 5 men, their faces masks of grim determination, putting their shoulders to the wheel of a stuck artillery piece. The image is powerful, primal, but when you show the footage to Voss, he shakes his head, a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "No, no, no," he says, his voice losing its usual purr. "This is not heroic. This is messy. Suggests we are not in control. It suggests we are weak, that the land itself can defeat us." He stabs a finger towards the screen. "We cannot show that. Focus on the men's faces, their unyielding spirit. The problem is the faces have changed. The confident smiles of summer are gone, replaced by a grim, gray exhaustion. It's a deep, bone-weary fatigue that settles in the eyes, in the hollows of the cheeks. It's the one thing you can't hide, no matter the camera angle. You come upon the scene of a supply truck, completely mired in a pit of mud that was once a road. The soldiers have been working for hours to free it. They are covered from head to toe in the black, greasy muck. They look less like men and more like creatures sculpted from the mud itself. Their curses hang in the damp, cold air, small puffs of white vapor. You see the raw power of their struggle, their refusal to give up. It is a powerful image of perseverance, and you film all of it, getting down in the mud with them, feeling the cold ooze over the tops of your boots. Finally, with a great cheer, the truck lurches free. As his comrades celebrate, you keep the camera rolling on one soldier. He is young, perhaps 19. He stumbles away from the truck, falls to his knees, and just collapses forward into the mud, his shoulders shaking with silent, racking sobs of sheer physical and emotional exhaustion. It is the most honest thing you have seen in months. Later, Voss watches the footage. He nods approvingly at the shots of the men pushing the truck. Good. Strong. Determined. Then the shot of the crying soldier appears. Voss's face hardens. Cut that, he orders, his voice sharp. For the first time, you argue. Hauptmann, I think it shows their humanity, the depth of their struggle, the cost. Voss turns to look at you, and his eyes are as cold and hard as chips of granite. Their humanity is not the story, he says slowly, enunciating each word. Their superhuman strength is. We are selling an idea of infallibility. And infallible men do not weep in the mud. Cut it. You feel something inside you break. You go back to your editing table and you physically cut the scene out of the reel. The snip of the scissors sounds like a final, metallic click of a closing door. It feels like a betrayal not just of the soldier, but of the very idea of truth. Your camera's shutter has a distinct, mechanical sound. A sharp click, followed by the soft whir of the film advancing. Click whir. In the summer, it was a sound of triumph, lost in the greater noise of the advance. The roar of engines, the shouts of men, the rumble of artillery. Now, in the quiet, sucking misery of the mud, it sounds obscenely loud, intrusive. When you raise the Aeroflex to your eye, men turn away. They pull their collars up or turn their backs to you. They don't want their despair documented, catalogued, and sent back to Berlin as a curiosity. Your camera is no longer a tool for telling their story. It's an intrusion, an enemy stealing the last private thing they have, their suffering. You frame a shot of a soldier staring into the gray distance, and as you press the button, he flinches at the sound. Click whir. The sound of a truth being stolen. You start a secret project. It's a foolish, dangerous act of rebellion. You have a small, personal Leica camera, a beautiful piece of machinery that fits in your pocket. It's not for the newsreels. It's for you. After you've shot your official, approved footage for the day with the Aeroflex, you take one photograph for yourself. Just one. An image that tells a different story. A pair of soldier's boots, the leather rotted away, the soles held on with wire. A discarded letter from home, soaked in mud, the ink bleeding into an illegible blue stain. A dead horse, half submerged in a black puddle, its eye a milky white orb staring at the gray, indifferent sky. You don't know why you do it. It's a compulsion. You hide the undeveloped rolls of 35mm film in a secret compartment you've cut into the lining of your greatcoat. You call them your confessions. Your new assignment is to get interviews. Short sound bites for the weekly newsreels back home. You need soldiers to speak about their high morale, their confidence in the Führer and the final victory. You approach a young soldier who is meticulously cleaning his rifle, his movements slow and deliberate. You set up the microphone. Could you tell the folks back home how you're feeling? You ask, trying to sound upbeat. Are you proud to be serving the fatherland on this historic front? The soldier doesn't look at you. He doesn't stop cleaning his rifle. He just continues the rhythmic push and pull of the cleaning rod, his eyes ancient and empty. He doesn't say a single word. His silence is a roar. It is his answer. It says more than any speech ever could. In your official report, you will write that he was too focused on his solemn duty to be distracted by words. The Soviets are no longer just a retreating, disorganized mob. They are fighting back. And they are fighting smartly, using the terrain that is crippling you. Your unit is caught in its first real firefight. Not a skirmish, but a sustained, terrifying exchange of machine gun and mortar fire. You dive into a ditch, clutching your precious Aeroflex to your chest like a child. Your mind screams at you. Film it. This is the action they want. But your body refuses to obey. All you can do is press your face into the cold, wet dirt, and pray to a God you had long since stopped believing in. You feel a profound, sickening realization. You have no weapon. Your camera, your tool for shaping reality, is a useless, heavy lump of metal here. For the first time, you feel the same naked, animal terror as the men you have been filming from a safe, artistic distance. The firefight subsides as quickly as it began. The silence that follows is ringing, unnatural. You slowly pick yourself up, your ears humming. You look for your soundman, a boy named Eric. He was only 20, a cheerful kid from Munich who was always talking about the beer gardens. You find him huddled at the bottom of the ditch. There isn't a mark on him. He wasn't hit by a bullet or shrapnel. His eyes are wide open, staring at nothing. His face is a mask of pure terror. He had a heart attack. He was literally scared to death. Hauptmann Voss appears, brushing dirt from his immaculate uniform. He looks down at Eric's body. "A pity," Voss says, his tone that of a man who has discovered a scratch on his favorite pair of boots. "We needed his audio recordings." He then turns to you. "Right, get the camera. Film the aftermath. But make sure you only show the captured Soviet positions over there. Show the victory." He says it while casually stepping over Eric's body. You raise the camera, your hands shaking so badly you can barely frame a shot. You point it where he tells you. The lens feels like it weighs 1,000 pounds. Winter arrives. It does not come as a gentle blanket of snow, the kind you remember from postcards and childhood stories. It comes as a physical force, an invading army of its own. The cold is a constant, gnawing presence that seeps through the layers of your uniform, past your skin, and into the marrow of your bones. Your primary enemy is no longer the mud or the Soviets. It is the temperature. Metal becomes a predator. A careless touch with a bare hand to your camera's tripod, and your skin is ripped away. The lubricants in your Aeroflex freeze into a thick, useless paste. The batteries, your source of power, die a slow, silent death. The celluloid film, the very medium of your art, becomes as brittle as ancient parchment. You load a new magazine and hear a sickening crackle. The film has snapped. The new orders from Berlin are clear, and they are insane. You are to create images of German resilience in the face of the glorious Russian winter. You are told to film soldiers huddled cheerfully around fires, singing songs of home, their faces aglow with camaraderie and unwavering spirit. You find a group of men huddled around a pathetic fire made of green wood that sputters and smokes more than it burns. They are too cold to sing, too miserable to pretend. So you become a theatrical director of the absurd. You bribe them. You give them your entire week's ration of cigarettes and a precious bar of chocolate. "Please," you beg, "just one song. For the camera." Their eyes, dull with cold, show a flicker of interest at the sight of the cigarettes. They agree. You frame the shot, the firelight dancing on their gaunt faces. They begin to sing, a verse of silent night. Their voices are thin and reedy, cracking with the cold, their breath pluming in the frigid air like lost souls. It is the saddest sound you have ever heard. As soon as you lower the camera and call, "Cut," they fall silent. The singing stops as if a switch has been thrown. They snatch the cigarettes and huddle closer to the miserable fire, their faces once again becoming masks of vacant misery. Back in the editing truck, you watch the footage. With the right martial music overlaid, it looks perfect. It looks heroic. The soldiers have changed again. They are no longer an army. They are a spectral procession. They are wrapped in anything they can find to ward off the killing cold. Patterned tablecloths ripped from abandoned farmhouses. Heavy floral curtains worn as shawls. Brightly colored babushkas stolen from the dead. They look like ghosts, haunting a landscape of their own destruction. Their skin is a pale, translucent blue. Their eyes have sunk deep into their skulls. Frostbite is everywhere. A creeping black plague that turns fingers, toes, and noses into dead, useless things. You are strictly, absolutely forbidden from filming any of this. The official narrative demands an army of winter warriors, Aryan gods thriving in the ice and snow. All you see is a slow, shuffling procession of the damned, and you are their court painter, commanded to paint a masterpiece of a heaven that does not exist while standing in the middle of hell. Historians will write entire volumes about the catastrophic failure to issue proper winter gear to the Sixth Army. They will blame Hitler's hubris, his belief that the war would be over by autumn. They will point fingers at Göring's incompetent Luftwaffe, which failed to deliver supplies. They will analyze logistics and supply lines with academic detachment. But you are living the result of those failures. You see a soldier who has painstakingly wrapped his legs in newspaper, hoping the thin layer of paper will trap a bit of warmth. You see another whose boots have rotted off his feet, and who now walks in burlap sacks tied with electrical wire. With a certainty that burns colder than the wind, that this isn't just a logistical failure. It is a fundamental, profound disregard for the men who were sent here to die. It is a declaration that their lives are less valuable than the myth they are supposed to embody. And your camera, by refusing to see their suffering, is a party to that disregard. You learn a new and intimate ritual of survival. You learn to sleep with your film canisters tucked into your armpits, pressed against your skin. It is the only place on your body warm enough to keep the film from freezing solid and cracking into 1,000 useless pieces. You drift into an uneasy sleep. The cold metal circles a constant, uncomfortable pressure against your ribs. You wake up in the morning with perfect, red circles indented in your skin, a strange stigmata. You have nightmares not of battle but of film. You dream of opening a canister and finding the reel has shattered into 1,000,000 tiny, razor-sharp fragments, and on each fragment is the image of a single frozen face, its eyes accusing you. The war has grown quiet. The snow, falling endlessly from a white sky, muffles everything. It absorbs sound, smothers explosions, turns the world into a vast, silent chamber. The loudest sound for miles is the click-whir of your camera. It feels like a sacrilege in the profound stillness. Your assignment is to get a shot representing vigilance. You find a sentry standing perfectly still, staring out into a blizzard. There is nothing to see but a wall of swirling white. There is nothing to hear but the wind. Yet you film him for a full 60-second shot. The man does not move. He is a statue of German resolve. Voss, or the man who will replace him, will love it. He'll call it the unblinking eye on the east. You know what you are actually filming. You are filming a man slowly freezing to death on his feet. You need an action shot. A machine gun firing into the snowy emptiness. A defiant roar against the elements. You find a gunner's nest. The gunner, a boy with frost-crusted eyelashes, has hands so numb he can barely curl his fingers around the trigger. The MG-42, that marvel of German engineering, is sluggish in the extreme cold. It fires a few rounds with a pathetic, choked cough and then jams. The soldier looks visibly relieved. But your new officer, a humorless man named Major Keel, wants the shot. "Do it again," he orders, his voice flat. The soldier fumbles with the mechanism, trying to clear the jam. His gloves are too thick, so he pulls one off with his teeth. His bare fingers make contact with the frozen steel of the weapon. You see him wince. He pulls his hand back, and 3 fingertips of skin remain on the gun's receiver, pale and bloodless. He doesn't make a sound. He wraps a rag around his bleeding hand, clears the jam, and gets the gun working. You get your shot. The footage shows a relentless German machine gunner, spitting fire into the blizzard. It does not show the blood he left on his weapon. A blizzard of historic proportions descends on your position, trapping your unit for 3 days. You huddle in the back of your truck, the wind howling outside like a hungry wolf. Rations, already scarce, run out completely on the 2nd day. The cold is relentless. It is an active, intelligent thing, seeking out any crack, any weakness. On the morning of the 3rd day, the wind dies down. You discover that a young soldier in your truck, a replacement so new you never even learned his name, has died from exposure in his sleep. He is frozen solid in a sitting position, a dusting of snow on his eyelashes. In the morning, Major Keel sees the body. He does not look sad. He does not look angry. He looks inspired. A flicker of creative energy crosses his face. He turns to you. "Bring your camera," he says, his voice hushed with a kind of artistic reverence. "We can frame this. A hero, fallen asleep forever in the snow while guarding his comrades. It's tragic. It's poetic. He wants you to use a dead man as a prop. You survive the winter, but the war you emerge into is a different creature. It has changed its shape, its nature. It's no longer fought on open fields under a wide sky. It has retreated into the primeval forests, into the deep shadows between the endless birch and pine trees. It has become a war against ghosts. The partisans. You never see them. Not really. You only see their work, the brutal evidence of their passing. A railway line, perfectly intact when you went to sleep, is a twisted ruin of steel in the morning. A bridge suddenly collapses under the weight of a supply truck. A convoy is found burned out on a lonely forest road. Its crew vanished into the trees, leaving only the buzzing of flies and the black, greasy smoke. The enemy is no longer a uniformed soldier in a trench. It is a whisper, a shadow in the trees, the glint of something in the sun that disappears when you look directly at it. Your new assignment is to film the Bandenbekämpfung, the anti-partisan operations. Your footage is meant to show the German army as a force of civilization, bringing order to a lawless, savage land. You arrive at a small, remote village that has been officially declared a partisan stronghold. You look around. You see no weapons, no fortifications. You see farmers with dirt under their fingernails and their weary families. You see chickens scratching in the dust. The soldiers, under the command of an SS officer this time, round everyone up in the village square. Your first filming task is specific. You are ordered to film the soldiers giving bread and canned meat to the children. The children, their eyes wide with a mixture of fear and hunger, hesitantly take the food. Your camera lovingly captures the moment. A German soldier, tall and blond, smiling as he pats a small boy on the head. It is a perfect tableau of benevolent strength. After the bread-giving scene is meticulously shot from 3 different angles, the soldiers separate the men of the village from the women and children. They are herded into a large wooden barn at the edge of the village. You raise your camera to film this, but the SS officer puts a firm hand on your lens, gently pushing it down. "We're done for the day," he says, his voice quiet, his eyes not meeting yours. "Pack up your equipment." His tone leaves no room for argument. As you and your assistant are loading the heavy camera cases back onto the truck, you hear it. The distinct, dry rattle of a machine gun from the direction of the barn. It is not a long burst, just a few seconds, then a profound, ringing silence. A few minutes later, you see a thin curl of smoke rising from the roof of the barn. Your official report will mention only the successful food distribution and the gratitude of the civilians. Your film will prove it. The camera, your beautiful, precise, truth-telling machine, for the first time feels like an accessory to mass murder. You've developed a tic, a nervous habit you can't control. Before you start filming any scene, you tap the side of the lens 3 times with your index finger. Tap, tap, tap. It's a small, private ritual, a prayer. You're not even sure what you're praying for anymore. In the beginning, you prayed for the camera to work, for the light to be good. Later, you prayed for the men to be safe. Now, you think you're praying for the lens to fail, for the shutter to jam, for the film to break, for anything that will prevent you from having to record what happens next. Tap, tap, tap. A desperate knock on a door that will never open. The soldiers you travel with are different now, too. The confident swagger of 1941 is a distant memory. They are jumpy, haunted, paranoid. Every civilian is a potential partisan. Every forest is a potential ambush. They look at the old women, the teenage boys, the children, with a deep, corrosive suspicion. They flinch at every sudden sound from the trees. A breaking twig, the cry of a bird. This fear is real, palpable, a constant, low-grade fever that infects everyone. But you cannot film it. Fear is not heroic. Paranoia does not look good on a newsreel. You cannot film the way a soldier's eyes dart nervously into the woods every 5 seconds. The newsreels back in Berlin demand images of calm, unwavering confidence. The reality is a creeping, silent dread that is eating everyone alive from the inside out. You find a captured partisan. He's a boy, no older than 16, with defiant eyes and dirt under his broken fingernails. Major Keel is ecstatic. "An interview," he declares. "We will have him confess his crimes against the Reich on camera." They bring the boy to you. You set up the camera, the microphone. Keel, through an interpreter, demands the boy confess to sabotage and murder. The boy just stares at the camera lens with a cold, pure defiance. He refuses to speak a single word. He spits on the ground. Keel is furious, but then an idea dawns on him. He writes a script, a full confession, filled with lurid details of atrocities. He has a German soldier who speaks fluent Russian read the confession in a dramatic voice. Your orders are to film the silent, defiant boy while the voiceover is recorded. Back in Berlin, the audience will see a captured terrorist, his face hardened by hate, admitting his guilt. You, the man behind the camera, will only ever see a boy who refused to break. Your secret collection of Leica photographs is growing. It is your only sanity. It is your real work. You have a shot of the barn, taken the next morning, a smoking, black ruin against the sunrise. A shot of the empty swings in the village playground, swaying slightly in the breeze. A tight close-up of a soldier's hand, trembling so violently, he can't light his cigarette after surviving an ambush. These are the real images of the war. They are the truth. They are also a death sentence if they are ever found. Hiding the small metal film canisters becomes your most important daily task, more crucial than finding food or water. You bury them at night, retrieve them in the morning, constantly moving them from your coat lining to your boot to your pack. They are your rosary beads of truth in a world built on lies. Your small convoy, just 2 trucks and a staff car, is moving down a narrow forest road. The attack comes without warning. A deafening explosion rips the lead truck apart. Machine gun fire erupts from the dense trees on both sides. It is swift, brutal, and terrifyingly efficient. You survive by diving headfirst into a muddy ditch, your body screaming at you to run, your training screaming at you to stay down. It's over in less than a minute. The silence that returns is filled with the sound of dripping water and the groans of the wounded. You crawl out of the ditch. The staff car is on its side, riddled with bullet holes. You see Major Keel lying nearby. He's been hit in the chest, and a dark, frothy stain is spreading across his uniform. You crawl to him. He is dying. You can see it in his eyes. But his first words to you are not a plea for help, not a message for his family. He grabs your arm with a surprisingly strong grip, his eyes wild. Did you film it? He rasps, blood flecking his lips. Did you get the action? The ambush? It must have been spectacular. He is dying, and all he can think about is the narrative. In that moment, you realize he isn't just a cynical officer. He is a true believer. He has completely, utterly lost touch with reality, hypnotized by the stories he has forced you to create. And you are his instrument. We're deep in the story now, in the moral gray zone. If this journey into the complexities of truth and war is resonating with you, take a second to hit the like button. Tells me these deeper stories matter. Stalingrad. The name itself sounds like a death rattle, a word made of broken concrete and frozen iron. You arrive and there is no city left to film. There is only a skeleton, a jagged, apocalyptic landscape of rubble, twisted steel, and the hollowed-out, skeletal husks of buildings. The war is no longer horizontal, fought across sweeping fields and plains. It is vertical. It is fought in basements and sewers, up shattered stairwells, across collapsed rooftops. Your camera, your beautiful Aeroflex designed for capturing the grandeur of landscapes, feels clumsy and useless here. How do you frame a world that has no structure left? How do you compose a shot in a place where right angles no longer exist? The sound is a constant physical assault. It never stops. It is the sharp whip-crack of a sniper's rifle that seems to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The dull, chest-thumping crump of mortars walking their way down a street. The grinding, groaning sound of rubble as a weakened wall finally gives up and collapses. And underneath it all, a sound you can never quite locate, a distant, inhuman screaming that rises and falls with the wind. The wind itself is a voice, whistling through the empty eye sockets of the ruined buildings, a constant, mournful moan. You try to record it for the newsreels, but the audio is just a wall of deafening, chaotic noise. It is the sound of insanity, and it cannot be edited into a coherent story. You learn the term the soldiers use, Rattenkrieg, the Rat War, and it is exactly that. You live and fight like rats, scurrying through jagged holes knocked in walls, moving from cellar to cellar through a subterranean world of filth and darkness. You are attached to a unit of storm pioneers, and their current objective is to clear a single 4-story apartment building. The building is called the Commissar's House. It takes 4 days to advance from the ground floor to the roof. For days, you see men die fighting for control of a kitchen. Over a hallway, the space is so tight, so claustrophobic that you can't get a wide shot. Everything is filmed in suffocating close-ups. A sweating face illuminated by a grenade flash, a bloody hand clutching a rifle, eyes wide with a terror so profound it feels ancient. There is another lens in this city, a rival. The sniper's scope. It is the anti-camera. Your job is to see and to record. The sniper's job is to see and to erase. You learn to move in a new way, a rat scuttle. Short, sharp bursts of movement from one piece of cover to the next. You feel a strange, perverse, professional rivalry with these unseen hunters. You are both artists of a sort, both dealing in the capture of decisive moments, framing life and death. One day, as you peer from behind a pile of rubble to get a shot, you hear a sonic crack and a spray of brick dust explodes inches from your head. You drop, your heart hammering against your ribs. You realize the sniper sees you, too. He sees the glint of sunlight off your lens. You are a target, not because you are a soldier, but because you are a witness. You find a single, miraculously intact teacup in the rubble of what was once a kitchen. It's fine porcelain, with a delicate blue flower painted on its side. In this universe of gray and brown and red, its color is a shock. It is the most beautiful, most civilized thing you have seen in months. You pick it up. It feels impossibly fragile in your hand. You carry it with you for the rest of the day, carefully protected in your coat pocket. It's a secret, a talisman, a reminder that there was once a world where things were not broken, where people sat and drank tea. That evening, you have to dive for cover as a mortar shell lands nearby. You hear a faint crunch from your pocket. Later, you pull out the fragments. It's just white dust and a few shards of blue. You don't feel sad. You don't feel anything at all. A new officer replaces Keel, who was evacuated. This one is younger, colder, his eyes holding the flat, metallic sheen of a true zealot. He is not from the army. He is from the party. He brings a direct, unequivocal order from the high command itself. They need a defining image from Stalingrad. An image of heroic, unbreakable German sacrifice. A photograph that will be printed in every newspaper. A still that will be the centerpiece of the newsreels. Find it. The new officer tells you, his voice devoid of emotion. Or create it. The implication hangs in the frozen air between you. The reality of Stalingrad is defeat, starvation, and despair. You are to manufacture a victory. Your unit, after a brutal, close-quarters fight, finally takes a heavily contested position, the shattered corner of a tractor factory. The cost was high. 3 German soldiers lie dead in the rubble. They are frozen in the awkward, undignified, broken doll postures of sudden death. One lies face down, another on his back with his arms flung wide. There is no glory here. There is only the pathetic, final stillness of meat. The new officer looks at the bodies, then at you. An idea is forming behind his cold eyes. There, he says, pointing with his chin. There is your shot. Our modern-day Spartans at Thermopylae. He orders you and 2 other terrified soldiers to move the bodies. This is the moment your soul breaks into a million pieces. You have told lies. You have staged scenes. You have been a coward. But this is a new circle of hell. Under the officer's watchful gaze, you and the others become grotesque puppeteers. You prop one dead soldier, a boy named Hans, against a broken wall. You place his rifle in his lifeless hands, arranging his fingers around the trigger. You turn his frozen face towards the imagined Soviet enemy. You arrange the second body to look like he died in the heroic act of throwing a grenade, his arm cocked back. The third you can't do. You stop. You shake your head. I can't. The officer unholsters his pistol, the click of the safety echoing in the ruins. It is a direct order from the Führer's headquarters, he says, his voice dangerously quiet. Do you wish to join them? A cold, calm wave washes over you. You are no longer an artist, a journalist, or even a soldier. You are a ghoul, a defiler of the dead. You move the third body, arranging it as you are told. You raise your small Leica, not the Aeroflex. This feels too intimate, too terrible for the newsreel camera. You look through the small viewfinder. You frame the shot. It's perfect. It is a disgusting, blasphemous lie, but it is a perfect, beautiful, heroic lie. It looks like a painting by a great master. The sacrifice, the last stand. Your hands do not shake. You feel a strange, icy calm. You are completely detached, a machine observing another machine. You press the shutter button. Click. The sound, in the vast silence of the ruins, is louder than any explosion. It is the sound of your own damnation being recorded on a tiny piece of celluloid. You develop the photograph that night in a freezing, ruined basement, your chemicals threatening to turn to ice. It is technically brilliant. The composition is flawless. The lighting is dramatic. It is everything they wanted. You look at the image of the dead men you posed like puppets, and you feel a profound, bottomless self-loathing that is so vast it has no edges. You have another empty film canister. An idea, born of despair and a sliver of defiance, takes root. You carefully take the negative of the photo, the lie, and you put it inside the empty canister, labeling it personal, unusable. Then you take the hidden roll of film from the lining of your coat, your confessions, all the secret, forbidden truths you've captured for months, and you put it in the canister labeled Official Stalingrad Action Footage, Urgent. You don't know why you've swapped them. It's a small, meaningless act of rebellion in a meaningless universe. But it's all you have left. The Sixth Army is gone, annihilated. The word Stalingrad is no longer a battle cry. It's a curse, a ghost that will haunt the Reich for the rest of its days. The tide has not just turned. It has become a tidal wave, a great reversal that is sweeping everything back to the west. The war is no longer a glorious advance. It is a series of desperate holding actions and chaotic, stumbling withdrawals. Your job, your entire purpose, has fundamentally changed. You are no longer a manufacturer of victory. You are now tasked with a far more difficult and subtle art, the camouflage of defeat. You learn a new, cynical vocabulary, the language of retreat, a panicked rout, where men throw down their weapons and flee for their lives, is officially termed a strategic withdrawal to previously prepared positions. An outpost abandoned in the face of an overwhelming attack becomes a frontline consolidation for greater efficiency. A unit that has been decimated with 70% casualties is described as being regrouped in the rear for a new assignment. Your job is to provide the visuals for these euphemisms. You film soldiers marching in an orderly column away from the front. You are careful to cut the footage right before they hear the rumble of approaching Soviet tanks and break into a desperate, every man for himself run. You film them smiling grimly, always smiling, as they consolidate a new front line that is 10 miles further west than yesterday's. The soldiers know what you are doing. They see you, the man with the camera, not as a comrade, but as part of the vast, lying machine that sent them here and is now trying to paint their desperate flight as a stroke of strategic genius. The looks you get are no longer empty or exhausted. They are filled with a cold, hard contempt. One old sergeant, his face a mask of grime and frostbite scars, spits on the ground as you walk past, a deliberate, eloquent act of disgust. Another soldier, a boy you'd filmed laughing in the summer of '41, quietly lifts his trouser leg as you approach, showing you the blackened, gangrenous flesh of his rotting foot. "Film this, you bastard," he whispers, his voice thick with hatred. "Send this back to the Führer." You lower your camera. There is no shot here that Berlin wants to see. The truth has become your personal enemy. You've started talking to your camera again, but not like you used to, not to Klaus and the Baron as old friends. Now you curse at it. In the darkness of the truck at night, you whisper insults to the cold, metal body of the Aeroflex. You blame its unblinking, glass eye for what you've become. It is your co-conspirator, your silent, unfeeling partner in crime. It has seen everything you've seen, recorded every lie you've been forced to tell. Sometimes you have a vivid, overwhelming fantasy of lifting it over your head and smashing it against a rock, shattering its expensive German lenses into 1,000 pieces. But you don't. You can't. It's the only thing you have. To destroy it would be to destroy your own identity, your only excuse for being here. During the long retreat, you pass back through the same villages and towns you filmed during the triumphant advance in 1941. The contrast is a physical sickness in your stomach. Where you once filmed cheering crowds, carefully staged by giving out cigarettes and chocolate, you now see sullen, hateful faces peering at you from behind shuttered windows. The same children who once waved at your camera now throw rocks at your truck. Where you once filmed German soldiers as liberators, pinning medals on local officials, you now film them as occupiers, following the scorched earth policy. You film them setting fire to the very same buildings they once freed. You are filming the ugly, rotten, decomposing backside of your own propaganda, and the stench is unbearable. Historians will analyze the strategic blunders of the Battle of Kursk, the spectacular failure of Operation Citadel. They will call it the true turning point of the war on the Eastern Front, the moment the Wehrmacht lost the strategic initiative for good. They will talk about tank-to-tank ratios and industrial production. But you felt the turning point long before that. It wasn't a single, spectacular battle. It was a slow change in the atmosphere. It was a creeping rot. It was the moment you saw the belief die in the soldiers' eyes. The moment they stopped believing the stories you were telling them, the stories they had been told. An army can survive losing a battle, even a major one. Cannot survive losing its own story. Once the myth dies, all that is left are tired, cold, frightened men who just want to go home. Your footage is now scrutinized more intensely than ever before. Entire reels are confiscated by censors at field headquarters and never seen again. You receive angry, frantic telegrams from the Ministry of Propaganda in Berlin, passed down through the chain of command. Footage is too bleak, too much rubble, not enough fighting spirit. Where are the heroes? They are desperate, starving for a narrative that no longer exists in reality. They want you to find heroes in a landscape of ghosts. You feel like a painter who has been locked in a pitch-black room and commanded to paint a glorious sunset from memory. You have the tools, you have the canvas, but there is no light. You are ordered to interview a highly decorated panzer commander, an Oberstleutnant who is a recipient of the Knight's Cross, a genuine, certified hero. This, they hope, will provide the stirring content they need. You find him not with his unit, but in a crowded, stinking field hospital. He has lost both his legs just below the knee. His face is pale, his eyes are hollowed out, filled with a pain that has nothing to do with his physical wounds. You set up the camera. Your new officer gives the man his talking points. Speak of bravery, of the superiority of German tanks, of the certainty of ultimate victory. The camera rolls. The tank commander begins to speak, his voice a dry rasp. But he doesn't talk about bravery. He talks about the children he saw in a burning village, their screams. He talks about his friends, the crew he served with for 3 years, who died for a few frozen miles of useless dirt. He talks about the lies. He starts to weep, his whole body shaking with great, silent sobs. It is the most powerful, the most devastatingly truthful thing you have ever filmed. You know with absolute certainty that if you send this footage back, your career will not just be over. In the current climate of paranoia and desperation, you might even be taken out and shot for defeatism. The reel of film, when you pack it away, feels warm in your hands, as if it were radioactive with forbidden truth. The retreat is no longer strategic. It is no longer a withdrawal. It is a desperate, headlong flight. You are just another man in a long, gray, shuffling column of ghosts heading west. Your truck, your mobile darkroom and sanctuary is gone. It hit a partisan mine 2 days ago, a blast that sent your equipment and your carefully constructed world flying into the air. You survived. You carry your Aeroflex on your back, strapped to a piece of wood. It has never felt heavier. It is an anchor across. Each step is a monumental effort. The road west is not a road anymore. It is a museum of failure, paved with the debris of a defeated army. Abandoned tanks, burned-out trucks, frozen corpses half buried in the snow, and the discarded remnants of lost hope. The canisters of film are your real burden. You save them from the truck, stuffing them into a canvas bag. They feel heavier than the camera, especially the two you swapped back in Stalingrad. The one labeled Official Stalingrad Action Footage, which secretly contains your forbidden photos, your confessions, and the one labeled Personal Unusable, which holds the single, perfect, monstrously staged negative of the dead soldiers. They feel like physical weights attached to your soul. You are a walking, secret archive of truths and lies, and you no longer know which is more dangerous to carry. You stop filming. There is no point. There is no one to direct, nothing heroic to capture, no energy to even lift the camera to your eye. It stays in its canvas shroud on your back, a sleeping monster, but you can't stop seeing. Your mind, trained for years to frame and compose, has become the camera. You see images everywhere, framed perfectly for a newsreel of despair. A single, frozen German boot standing upright in the snow, its owner presumably buried beneath. A horse's skull, picked clean by crows, staring with empty sockets at the gray sky. A photograph of a smiling family. A man, a woman, two children, lying face up in a muddy puddle, a relic from a soldier's pocket. Your memory has become a darkroom, constantly developing images you can never unsee, burning them directly onto your soul. You've taken to collecting small, useless things. It's a quiet, private madness. A brass button from a fallen Soviet uniform. A smooth, gray stone from a riverbed, worn perfectly round by the water. A single, pressed wildflower you found between the pages of a book in an abandoned farmhouse. They have no value. They are meaningless. But they are real. They are not staged. They are not part of a narrative. They are the only truthful things you possess. You keep them in an old, dented tobacco tin in your pocket, and sometimes at night you take them out and hold them in your palm. Their simple, physical reality, a small comfort in a world of ghosts. One night, you share the heat of a miserable fire with a young infantryman. He can't be more than 18. He sees the faint outline of the propaganda company insignia on the sleeve of your tattered uniform. "You're one of them," he says, his voice flat, without accusation. "The storytellers." He looks at you across the flickering flames, his eyes old and weary in his young face. "Tell me a good one, then. Tell me the one where we win." You look into his eyes and you can't answer. There are no more stories. The lies have all been used up. You just sit there, sharing the silence, the warmth of the fire, a temporary truce against the cold. That shared, wordless misery is more honest than any newsreel you ever produced. One day, out of sheer, ingrained habit, you unstrap the Aeroflex from your back. You lift it to your shoulder, squint through the viewfinder at the column of retreating men shuffling ahead of you. You pan across their faces, gaunt, bearded, hollow-eyed, anonymous. And for a single, terrifying, heart-stopping second, you see your own face among them. The same beard, the same hollow eyes, the same look of utter desolation. You pull back from the viewfinder, your heart pounding. The line between the observer and the subject, a line you had so carefully maintained for years, has completely, irrevocably vanished. You are not documenting their story. You are the story, and it is a story of utter, catastrophic defeat. You find a working typewriter in a deserted command post, a miracle in the chaos. The building is empty, papers strewn everywhere, the occupants having left in a hurry. You sit down at the desk. You are supposed to find your commanding officer somewhere in this mess and file your final field report. You are supposed to describe troop movements, morale, the effectiveness of recent propaganda efforts. You roll a clean sheet of paper into the machine. You place your fingers on the keys. Instead of a report, you find yourself typing a single sentence. You type it again and again, over and over, the black keys striking the paper like tiny, desperate hammer blows until the entire page is full. "I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry. I am sorry." You leave the page in the typewriter, a final, useless confession, and walk away. A Soviet patrol overruns your makeshift camp at dawn. It's a flurry of shouting, confusion, and sporadic gunfire. In the chaos, you are separated from your gear, from the few men you were traveling with. You manage to grab only one thing, the small canvas bag containing your film canisters. You run. You run blindly into the woods, the snow up to your knees, your lungs burning. You can hear shouting in Russian behind you, getting closer. You have lost your camera, your typewriter, your unit, your identity. All you have left are the images sealed in their metal tins, the truth and the lie. And as you stumble through the trees, you realize you have to choose which one is worth dying for. You are alone. Your uniform is in tatters, a meaningless collection of gray rags. You've ripped off the propaganda company insignia with a rusty knife, erasing your old identity. Without your camera, you are nobody, just another starving, freezing man trying to go west, a single, insignificant ghost in an army of ghosts. You fall in with other small groups of stragglers, men whose units have ceased to exist. No one asks who you were. No one cares. Names are a liability. The past is a burden none of them want to carry. All that matters is the next step and the one after that. The world, without the comforting, distancing frame of a viewfinder, is overwhelming. It is raw, unfiltered, and brutal. You are no longer composing shots. You are simply trying to survive them. The hunger you once filmed as a challenge to be overcome for a newsreel is now a gnawing, acidic fire in your own belly that makes you dizzy. The cold isn't a dramatic backdrop for German resilience anymore. It is a relentless, intelligent force that is actively trying to kill you, probing for any weakness. You have stepped through the lens and into the horrifying reality you once so carefully curated and controlled. The world is no longer a story. It is just what is, and it is unbearable. You cling to the film canisters in your bag like a holy relic. They are all you have left of your former life. At night, huddled for warmth with other men in the ruins of a barn, you take them out. In the pitch darkness, you can't see them, but you can feel their cold, metallic reality in your hands. You run your fingers over them, imagining the images sealed inside, frozen in time. The laughing soldiers from the summer of '41, so young and confident. The soldier weeping in the autumn mud. The horribly posed bodies in the ruins of Stalingrad. The defiant partisan boy. The tank commander's tearful confession. They are all in there. A silent, ghostly chorus trapped in celluloid. They are the only proof that any of it happened. That you happened. You've started narrating the world to yourself, but in reverse. It's a quiet, desperate game to reclaim the truth, to mentally undo the years of lies you helped create. You see a group of men huddled around a dead horse, carving off strips of frozen meat with their bayonets. This is not a demonstration of resourcefulness, you think to yourself. This is a group of starving men. You hear one of them coughing, a deep, wet, rattling sound. That is not the sound of a minor cold. That is the sound of a man coughing his lungs out, who will likely be dead by morning. It is your own private denazification of the language, a small, futile act of penance. You stumble upon a German field hospital, a scene of organized chaos and quiet despair. A nurse, a woman whose face is etched with lines of exhaustion, so deep they look like scars, sees you leaning against a tree. She comes over. She gives you a piece of hard bread and, without a word, cleans and bandages a festering wound on your hand. She doesn't ask your unit or your name. She doesn't ask what you did or where you are going. She just sees a wounded man and performs her duty. For 5 minutes, you are not a propagandist or a soldier or a fugitive. You are just a patient. It is the most profound act of simple humanity you have experienced in years. You want to tell her thank you, but the words feel inadequate, foreign in your mouth. You just nod, and the nod feels like a prayer. You are sleeping in a ditch with 2 other soldiers. One of them is delirious with fever, muttering about needing to deliver an urgent message to his mother in Stuttgart. In the cold, paranoid darkness of the early morning, a thought seizes you. What if I am captured? What if they find these canisters? The truth real, the one with the partisans and the weeping commander, would be a death sentence. The lie, the staged photo, would be, you don't know what it would be. In a frantic, fumbling haste, your fingers numb with cold, you take the canisters out. You open them in the darkness. You take the reel of your secret photos, the truth, and with your bare hands you dig into the frozen mud at the bottom of the ditch and bury it. You push it deep into the cold, uncaring earth. You keep only the canister with the single negative inside. The staged, heroic photo from Stalingrad. The lie. The bag feels lighter now. The lie is easier to carry. Historians, in the comfortable warmth of their future libraries, will one day reconstruct the path of the German retreat. They will draw it on maps, a chaotic web of collapsing fronts and encircled armies. They will use official records, division diaries, and after-action reports. But they will never have a map for the retreat that happened inside the minds of the men who walked that road. The long, brutal journey from belief to cynicism, from purpose to emptiness, from human being to ghost. You don't need a map for that journey. You are the territory. You are captured. It isn't a dramatic firefight. You are found, stumbling out of a forest, half dead from starvation and exposure, by a Soviet ski patrol. They are young, wary, their faces chapped by the wind. They search you efficiently. They find the single film canister in your bag. A young officer, his face serious, takes it from you. He opens it. He pulls out the single strip of negative and holds it up to the gray winter light. He sees the image you created, the 3 German soldiers posed heroically in death, making their last stand in the ruins of the tractor factory. He looks from the dramatic, heroic lie on the negative, to you, the pathetic, shivering, ragged truth standing before him. He doesn't look angry. He doesn't look triumphant. He looks confused, as if the lie is so much more powerful, so much more comprehensible, than the pathetic reality of the man in front of him. He says something in Russian to his men. You don't understand the words, but you understand the tone. It is not accusation. It is something closer to pity. You are a prisoner of war. The war is over for you. Life shrinks, becoming a simple, monotonous routine of gray soup, gray skies, and the gray, gaunt faces of the other captured men. There are no cameras. There are no narratives. There is no grand story of struggle or victory. Only the stark, unadorned, daily reality of survival. The Soviets took the canister with your lie inside. You wonder what they did with it. Is it in an archive somewhere in Moscow? A strange, forgotten spoil of war? Or did they simply throw it away? You find you don't care. The lie is no longer yours to carry. There is a strange, hollow freedom in that. You start to learn Russian. Not from a book, but from the guards, from the other prisoners who were captured earlier. You learn simple, essential words. Da, yes, niet, no, chleb, bread, voda, water. Each word is a small victory, a tiny, hard-won bridge to the world around you. For the first time in years, you are learning a language meant purely for communication, not for persuasion or deception. Each word means exactly what it says. Chleb is not a symbol of the Reich's bounty. It is just bread. The simplicity is a balm on your soul. One day you are taken from the barracks to an office. You are to be interrogated by a Soviet officer from the NKVD. You expect a brute, a man who deals in threats and pain. But the man who sits behind the simple wooden desk is not what you expected. He is in his 40s with intelligent, weary eyes. He speaks perfect, unaccented German. He gestures for you to sit. He does not ask about troop movements or military secrets. He simply places the small, curled strip of negative, your staged photo from Stalingrad, on the table between you. "This is your work?" he asks, his voice calm, almost academic. You nod. "It's very dramatic," he says, a faint hint of irony in his voice. He leans forward slightly. "Tell me, did it look like this? The end?" You look at the lie on the table, the heroic composition you so carefully, so blasphemously created. And then you look at the officer's intelligent, questioning eyes. And for the first time in your adult life, you tell the complete, unvarnished truth. You tell him everything. You tell him about Hauptmann Voss and the manicured fingernails and the demand for more smiles. You tell him about cutting the shot of the soldier weeping in the mud. You tell him about the village, the bread given to the children, and the sound of the machine gun coming from the barn. You tell him about posing the dead men in the ruins of the factory. You talk for nearly an hour, the words pouring out of you in a torrent, a dam of lies finally breaking. The officer just listens. He makes no notes. He simply watches you, his expression unreadable. When you are finally finished, a profound, bone-deep exhaustion settles over you. The weight you have been carrying for 3 years is finally gone, left in a pile of useless words on the floor of that small, gray room. The officer is silent for a long moment. Then, he reaches into a drawer and slides a photograph across the table. It's a Soviet propaganda photo. A beautiful young woman, a sniper, is smiling confidently, her rifle held proudly, the sun glinting off her hero's medal. Our storytellers are just as busy as yours, he says softly. Perhaps all wars are fought twice, once with bullets and once with stories. You look at the photo. You see the careful lighting, the heroic, unnatural pose, the manufactured confidence in her eyes. You see the lie. And in this shared, unspoken understanding with your enemy, this acknowledgement of a universal, cynical truth, you feel a strange, unexpected sense of peace. You are not a unique monster. You were simply a craftsman in a global industry of deception. Years pass. You are released from the prison camp. You return to a Germany that is also a skeleton of its former self, a city of ghosts and rubble trying to forget. You never pick up a camera again. The thought of looking at the world through a lens makes you physically ill. You work a simple job repairing clocks. The intricate, honest mechanics of the tiny machines soothe you. You live a quiet life. But sometimes, at night, when you are lying in the darkness, you think about the reel of film you buried in a frozen ditch somewhere in Russia. You wonder if the images are still there, preserved in the cold earth. The truth waiting silently in the dark. You eventually realize it doesn't matter if they are ever found or developed. You know they exist. You were the witness. That is enough. You are an old man now. You are sitting on a park bench on a warm spring afternoon. A child is playing nearby, chasing pigeons, their laughter a bright, uncomplicated sound. The sun is warm on your face. It is a simple, perfect, unscripted moment. You frame it in your mind. The low angle on the laughing child. The warm backlighting from the sun. It's a good shot. No lies. No agenda. Just life happening. You don't press a shutter. There is no click whir. You just watch. You just let it be. And for the first time since you were a young man, you feel like the image is your own. The park bench is warm. The sound of the child's laughter fades as they run off to their mother. The sun begins to set, painting the sky in colors you once thought were lost to the world forever. The camera is gone. The weight is gone. The ghosts are quiet now, settled deep in the vast, silent archives of your memory. They are a part of you, but they no longer own you. You learned that a lens can be a weapon, that a story can be a cage. But you also learned that the truth, no matter how deeply you bury it, has a way of surviving. It survived in your memory. It survived in the small, useless, real objects you collected in a tobacco tin. It survived in the final, quiet confession to an enemy who, for a moment, understood completely. Your breath is slow and even. You think about the two wars, the one of bullets and the one of stories. You fought in both. You lost both. But in surviving, in finally telling the truth, if only to one person, you found something that wasn't victory, but it felt like it. Felt like peace. Now, you can just let the quiet hold you. Let the story settle. And sleep.